Welcome. This is the first session of a teaching for a vision development workshop we're doing in YWAM Northern Europe. And we are going to spend the next minutes talking about what is leadership. I will use my screen and you will follow. So the topic now is we are going to answer what is leadership, and obviously there are a lot of definitions out there regarding this. I'll do my best to try to explain it like I'm seeing it, and you may disagree or you may agree. Hopefully you will agree, but I'm trying to build a foundation for an understanding of this term, and we are going to spend most of the next 5 sessions. This is the first out of 5, and we're going to spend all these 5 sessions talking about what leadership is. So first, I've been a leader in YWAM for many years, and I've seen that there is a lot of definitions out there of leadership. There is not necessarily wrong definitions, it's just a little bit different definitions. Leadership has always to do with power and authority. And power and authority in our Western context can, have a negative connotation to it, because we've all been exposed for negative power and negative authority, abuse of power, if you like, and abuse of leadership. And I've experienced in YWAM mostly good leadership, but also sometimes poor leadership. And that is why we would like to talk about leadership in a good way, in a healthy way, and we will do our best to do so. But then, what is leadership? Let's start with one definition. And this is the classic definition, and it talks about the ability to influence and guide followers or members of an organization or group. Look at the words here. First of all, we're talking about an ability. So that means there must be some skills involved. So you see, leadership is a trait. It's something you can learn. So it's an ability. And then we see an ability to what? It's an ability to influence and to guide. In order to influence and to guide, you need some sort of authority. Sorry, my handwriting is sometimes quite bad. We need some sort of authority or some sort of power. And quite simply, we are talking about 2 kinds of authority or 2 kinds of power. The first one is formal, and the other one is informal. This is it's a simplification of reality, right? You can use your formal authority. That is because you have a position, you've been given a role, you've been given a mandate to lead. That's transactional, and it's like, because I am the leader, I decide what you can do. It's a commandment, it's a line of commandment. That's one sort of authority. The other one is informal. That is the ability to influence and to guide, not because I have a role or a formal position. It's because of my integrity, my track record, my relational skills, because of who I am. So it's informal, it's relational, and it happens through relational influence. People will follow a leader because of who he is as a person, not because of the formal role he has. So we are talking about authority and power on 2 levels, formal and informal. As a leader and in a leadership team, you need to be aware of both these aspects. Formal is transactional. You do what you're told. Informal is more transformational. It's more by inspiring. You inspire people to do and to follow not because of the role you have, but because of who you are as a person. And in YWAM, we try to use the informal or the relational or the transformational leadership or authority more than the formal one. Obviously, there's a room for the formal one as well, especially when we deal with authorities, when we deal with governments. You need the formal responsibility line in place. So both are important, but basically in everyday leadership, we try to use the informal, the transformational aspects of leadership. Looking further on in this definition, the ability to influence and guide who? Well, we have followers or members. It's people that are part of our organization. It could be staff, it could be students, and so on, of an organization or group. So this is a very simple definition, and it's a definition that is used a lot. Here is a different definition that the first one is not wrong, but I actually like this definition a bit better. And this has to do with discerning the future and bridge the gap between the past and the present, helping people into the future. In every organization, there is always, we have the past, and we're going to talk about this later on, but we have the past, we have the present, this is now, and then we have the future. And reality is that the past is defining the present. It's the stories, it's our ethos, it's the values, it's who we are, our identity. And in YWAM we talk about what are the words of the Lord to us, what are the guiding words, what are the history of alignments that has happened. Those things, the covenants, those things that has happened in the past definitely influence our present, our today. The story of the waves that Lauren had in 1956 has shaped basically everything in YWAM. The ability to hear from God, those stories has shaped what we are and what we are doing today. However, we believe in an image of the future. So we are talking about the future, and then we're talking about an image. There's an image here of a future that we are seeing with our mind's eye. It's a vision, and I'm going to talk about vision in another session, but we need to see those images of the future. For instance, what is your image for the future that you see in your mind, with your heart? The images that Jesus has given to you. For me, for instance, I see waves of young Norwegians going to the unreached people groups of the world. I believe that image is going to become reality. And that image, or for instance, I see an image of every language of the world having a translation of the Bible. I see that as a future image, and I see it almost like a mental movie in my mind. And that image, I need to discern that image, and then as I'm seeing it, leadership is to bridge the gap. So it's to bridge the gap between the present, where we are today, and into the future by communicating that image of the future. And then that is leadership, to bridge that gap between the past and the present, helping people into the future. So helping people, we do that by communicating. We communicate, we facilitate, and so on. So this is leadership, and I like this definition probably better than the other one. The other one is not wrong, but I have a third one here, and this is saying basically the same things as the second one, but it's to recognize what Jesus is doing in his body and provide direction for it. So if you look here, it's it's Jesus-centered. So what is Jesus doing in the world today? What is Jesus doing in your nation today? What is Jesus doing in his church today? What is Jesus doing on your YWAM base today? And it has to discern that and to understand that and to hear from God, and then give direction to it. It sounds very simple, but it's an understanding of what is on God's heart. What is God speaking? It's the big picture of what God is speaking. So to be a Christian leader, very, very important is to understand that in the light of the Word of God, in the light of the Bible, obviously, which is foundational, but it's to discern and to recognize that. How do we recognize that? Well, we recognize that through prayer, through the Bible, through the prophetic. But we also recognize it by observing what is happening and to evaluate. Not evaluate your YWAM base only, but to evaluate what is happening in the city. What are the politicians doing? What are the students saying? What are the youth culture saying? And then what is Jesus doing in all? What is Jesus doing in all of that? Spiritual leadership has to recognize what is Jesus doing now, and then to provide leadership and to provide direction for that, for the group that you're set to lead. So very simple. This is how I understand leadership, and I'm going to talk more about this in the next sessions. Thank you.